"I'm guessing you left your wallet in the Bentley, huh?" The barista smirked, loud enough for everyone in line to hear. Maya Williams froze. The morning buzz in the lobby cafe of the Altara building stilled for a heartbeat, eyes tilting her way, amused, skeptical, some plainly annoyed. Her fingers hovered awkwardly above the card reader, the little screen flashing declined in cold, unwavering letters. She reached instinctively for her coat pockettex, except she wasn't carrying a bag or wallet, just her phone and car keys. She'd left in a rush, brain half in her upcoming investor pitch, half in the black coffee she hadn't yet sipped. "Seriously?" the barista added, voice flat, eyes scanning the next customer. "We got a line here, ma'am. If you don't have your wallet, you probably shouldn't order." "Two must have left it at home," Maya said, forcing composure into her voice. The line shifted. A man in a charcoal suit behind her sighed. Someone else muttered, "People always trying to finesse a free drink." Maya's cheeks burned. "Cancel the order." But before the barista could void the transaction, a calm voice spoke from behind. "Put it on mine." She turned. The man was tall, solid. He wore a navy security jacket, faded at the shoulders, and a black knit cap with ATL Secure, stitched in small white letters. His face was calm, not blank, but quiet, as if nothing in the world shocked him anymore. The barista shrugged. "Suit yourself." The man tapped his card, nodded at her once without a smile, and stepped away. Maya opened her mouth, but he was already disappearing down a side hallway marked Maintenance and Deliveries. Not waiting for thanks, not making eye contact, just gone. Her coffee, a medium dark roast with oat milk and cinnamon, was handed to her across the counter. The same barista who'd mocked her now looked bored. Maya took the cup silently. She hated how warm her face was. She hated that, at 32, after everything she'd built and lost, she was standing here being pitied or worse, suspected of scamming a $3 coffee. Maya Williams had once been Atlanta's sweetheart of tech, a Forbes 30 under 30 before she turned 28, founder and former CEO of Prismitech, a startup that had revolutionized warehouse logistics with real-time AI. She built it from her late father's garage, scaled it, turned down a $150 million acquisition offer because she wanted to see it grow on her terms. That dream collapsed last fall. A whistleblower scandal. Mismanaged funds, none stolen, but enough poorly tracked to shake investor confidence. A flood of negative press, lawsuits, boardroom pressure, betrayal. Her co-founder took a deal to step away quietly. Maya refused, so they removed her. Since then, she'd started over. Small, quiet. A single-room office on the 14th floor of Altara building. Williams Advisory. Just her and a laptop. Today's coffee run was supposed to power her through a pitch to a mid-size firm that had shown interest. She dressed clean but unflashy. Navy blazer, black slacks, no makeup beyond lipstick. She was focused, ready. Except she forgot her wallet. Now she sat at a bench by the lobby's tall windows, coffee in hand, city rushing past on Peachtree Street. But her mind wasn't on traffic or even the pitch. It was on him, the man in the security jacket. He hadn't smiled, hadn't winked or made some offhand, "It's nothing" comment. He didn't even stay to watch her reaction. He just helped and vanished. Maya unlocked her phone. A text from her cousin, Kiara. "Still standing, boss lady?" Maya didn't reply. She reread it, then closed the screen. Her fingers tapped into the building's online directory. Malik Johnson appeared under ATL Secure, Staff Security. No title, no notes. She was about to close the screen when something made her pause. There'd been something in his eyes, not pity, not curiosity, just steadiness, like he understood what it was like to be exposed in front of strangers. Back in her office, Maya set the coffee down next to her laptop and opened her notebook. Her neat script from the night before still waited. Mission: connect trust to data clarity. Show value, don't sell. But her mind strayed again, to the way the barista had looked at her, dismissive, assuming, how quickly strangers decided who you were based on what you wore, what you carried, or didn't. She opened the building's admin portal. Her old board-level login from before the Prismitech fallout still worked some security oversight no one had flagged. It didn't take long. Malik Johnson, 39, contract security, former. Georgia Department of Transportation, Infrastructure Projects. Gap. 2019. 2022. A 3-year hole. Recruiters hated gaps. Investors did too. But Maya? She had lived through one. That blank space said more to her than a resume full of titles. She leaned back in her chair, the early sun catching in the window's edge. Her heart settled into something she hadn't felt in a while, not pity, not discomfort, curiosity, respect. That kind of quiet decency didn't show up in pitch decks or market reports. And maybe, just maybe, it was worth remembering. The elevator hummed as it climbed past the 10th floor. Maya stood silently, back straight, coffee cup now nearly empty in her hand. The walls were mirrored steel, catching the faint sheen of tired determination in her eyes. Her reflection stared back like a version of herself from 5 years ago, sharper cheekbones, fewer answers, more fight than she knew what to do with. 14th floor. The door opened with a soft chime. She stepped out into the quiet corridor that led to her modest office suite, 1423. Nothing flashy. Just a frosted glass door with Williams Advisory etched in simple serif font, and inside, a space she could actually afford on her own name alone. She entered, tossed her coat over the single armchair in the corner, and slid into her chair. Her laptop blinked awake. The screen filled with tabs, files, and a growing spreadsheet that detailed her outreach efforts, warm leads, cold ones, and the few she still held onto with something like hope. Her meeting was in 2 hours, plenty of time to rehearse, but her fingers hovered over the trackpad, unmoving. She opened a browser instead, typed, Malik Johnson, Georgia Department of Transportation. Several articles came up, most older than 5 years. Project manager on major bridge reinforcement efforts, early adopter of cloud-integrated sensor systems, praised for efficiency in government projects. One headline from 2019 caught her eye. Engineer suspends career to care for terminally ill mother. She clicked. It was brief, a community interest piece. No sensationalism. Just a photo of a man in a button-down shirt and jeans, standing beside an older woman in a wheelchair outside a modest home. The caption read, Malik Johnson, 33, with his mother, Darlene Johnson. Her chest tightened. Not because it was tragic, but because of how rarely people like that got noticed, men who disappeared from titles and paychecks for reasons that didn't fit into LinkedIn narratives. The gap in his record wasn't a flaw. It was a choice. And choices like that came with a cost. Maya closed the browser. She looked around her office. The beige walls, the potted plant in the corner she kept forgetting to water, the dry erase board with 3 phrases she circled in red last week. Integrity, intelligence, impact. It all felt small today. Not because it wasn't important, but because she'd just been reminded that worth wasn't only measured in what could be sold. A knock at the door broke her thoughts. She turned, half expecting a delivery or the building manager. But it was him. Malik stood in the doorway, security jacket zipped halfway up, a paper bag in one hand. His eyes held the same quiet calm as before. Didn't mean to interrupt, he said. She stood quickly. You're not interrupting. Come in. He stepped inside without hesitation, but with the awareness of someone who knew how not to take up space. He handed her the paper bag. You left this at the cafe counter. I figured you'd want it. Inside was a small notebookers, the black moleskin she scribbled in every morning. It must have slipped from her lap when she sat on the bench. Maya exhaled a breath she didn't know she was holding. Thank you. Seriously. He gave a slight nod. I didn't want to dig through it, but your name was inside the cover. Appreciate that. She hesitated, then added, and, about this morning, I didn't get to thank you properly. No need, he said simply. Still, that barista, she trailed off, unsure whether to laugh or wince. He gave a tiny shrug. People judge fast. It's easier than asking questions. Maya studied him for a second. Then, you used to be an engineer. His brows lifted just slightly. Not surprised, just wary. You looked me up. She smiled, not defensive. I did. I still have some admin access in the building. He seemed to consider that, then gave another nod, neither annoyed nor flattered. I wasn't checking up on you. I was curious. He met her eyes then, and she saw the flicker of something guarded, but open. I walked away from engineering when my mom got sick. he said after a pause. Hospice doesn't pay. She didn't want a stranger bathing her, so I did. Maya didn't interrupt. She just listened. She passed in 2022. After that, I tried to go back. Most places saw the gap and passed. Said it disrupted my technical momentum. He gave a soft chuckle without humor. Funny thing, I was probably sharper then than ever. Just didn't have the words for their boxes. I know the feeling, she said quietly. Silence settled between them for a beat, comfortable, not strained. You have a good thing going here? He asked, glancing around the room. It's a start, she replied. Not flashy, but it's mine, all mine. He nodded, then stepped back toward the door. I'll let you get to your day. Wait, Maya said, surprising herself. Would you ever consider consulting, technical advisory? He looked back, brow raised. I'm working on a project, nothing huge, but I need someone who understands infrastructure, systems, the boring stuff most people rush past. You'd be paid, of course. He didn't say yes or no. I'll think about it, he said instead. Then he left. Maya stood alone in the office, holding the bag with her notebook. She felt something shift, not seismic, just a small tremor in the floorboards of her carefully reconstructed life. Before we continue the story, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching this video from. Who knows, someone near you might be watching it too. And if you've ever felt quietly supported by someone like Maya was, don't forget to leave a like to celebrate that kind of kindness. Or ChatGPT. Maybe it was the coffee. Maybe it was just fatigue. But she knew this. Malik Johnson wasn't just a man with a gap in his resume. He was someone who'd chosen the kind of integrity most corporations wouldn't recognize even if it slapped them across the quarterly report. And for the first time in a while, Maya felt less like a founder trying to rebuild, and more like a human being connecting. The soft clink of her coffee cup against the desk was the only sound in the room. Maya sat motionless, staring at the door long after Malik had left. She hadn't expected him to agree on the spot, didn't seem like the type to jump without thinking, but his calm, measured, "I'll think about it," felt promising, honest. She opened her notebook, flipping past scribbles about revenue models and client personas until she found a clean page. At the top, she wrote, Malik, potential advisor. Underneath, she added, knows infrastructure, lived experience with systems failure, both literal and human. She paused, tapping the pen to her lip. Then she wrote, has integrity, the rare kind. The rest of the day passed in fragments. Her investor pitch went well enough, though the older man across the table had asked more about her resilience than her ideas. She smiled, gave her rehearsed lines, but her mind kept returning to the quiet man in the navy jacket. By late afternoon, she'd already drafted a preliminary role outline for him. Contractor, part-time, focused on system audits. No commitments yet, just a door left slightly ajar. At 5:42 p.m., just as Maya was about to shut down her laptop, a notification blinked across her screen. It was from the building's internal alert system. Incident report logged. Level B. Loading dock access. She almost dismissed it until she saw the responder's name, Malik Johnson. Curiosity tugged at her. The loading dock was on the basement level, mostly used for supply drops and service staff. She grabbed her coat, stuffed her notebook into her tote, and headed for the elevator. The basement smelled of concrete and echoes, dimly lit, lined with steel doors and utility signs. She followed the faint sound of voices until she found two maintenance workers standing by a metal gate. One was nodding toward Malik, who stood with a flashlight aimed at a panel near the freight elevator. Maya hung back, watching. Malik wasn't doing anything dramatic, just listening, asking questions, inspecting the lock mechanism. One of the workers said something she couldn't hear, and Malik nodded slowly, pointing to a disconnected sensor wire. His body language was calm, confident, so different from how people usually flailed around problems in this building. After a few minutes, the workers thanked him and walked off. Malik turned to leave and spotted her. He didn't seem surprised. Didn't expect to see you down here, he said, approaching without urgency. I saw the report, Maya replied. I wanted to see how you handled things. He gave a quiet chuckle. Curious boss type. I'm not your boss, she said. Not yet. That made him smile, just slightly. Fair enough. They stood there in the hum of the basement, surrounded by exposed pipes and silence. That was a clean fix. she said, nodding toward the gate. Most contractors just reset the system and wait for someone else to call it broken again in a week. Yeah, he said, folding his arms. That's the problem with patches. You stop asking why things broke in the first place. She liked that. Why was a question she'd once built a company around. He shifted, glanced toward the freight elevator. This building's got good bones. But no one's done a full structural audit since 2015. That's nearly a decade, Maya said. He nodded. And yet, everyone's surprised when the fire alarm glitches or the HVAC hiccups in winter. Maya tilted her head. You remember the old audit reports? I was part of the retrofit project for public sector buildings a while back. This one stuck with, mused to admire how efficient it was. Something in his tone caught her ear. Admiration, yes, but also a trace of mourning. Why'd you never go back? She asked gently. After your mom passed. His eyes dropped to the floor. Just for a second. Didn't feel like I belonged anymore. World kept moving. I wasn't in it. She didn't speak right away. Just nodded. I know what that feels like, she said quietly. After I lost Prismai, it was like walking into a room where everyone pretends they don't remember your name. Malik met her gaze. They probably did, just chose not to say it out loud. Silence again, but not empty. Shared, familiar. You ever think about starting again? She asked. Not going back but forward, somewhere new. He shrugged, but there was a softness there. Sometimes. But I figured second chances were for the ones who didn't disappear in the first place. Maya smiled. I think the people who disappeared and came back are the only ones worth listening to. He gave her a long look. Then, why are you really here, Maya? She hesitated. Honesty flickered in her chest. Because I don't want to build this new thing alone. And because I see something in you I trust. Even if I don't know everything yet. He didn't answer right away. Then he reached into his jacket, pulled out a folded envelope, and handed it to her. What's this? My resume, he said. You'll see the gap. I didn't hide it. She took the envelope gently. I wouldn't have asked you to. Malik nodded once, then turned and walked toward the stairwell, the soft echo of his boots fading behind him. Maya stood there, envelope in hand, heart oddly full. She looked down at the return address on the top corner. M. Johnson, Decatur, Georgia. Simple. Unpretentious. She smiled, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a familiar spark hope, not the glossy, motivational kind, the stubborn, day-after-failure kind. She climbed back into the elevator, the envelope clutched tight. Maybe, just maybe, this new beginning wasn't just hers. Maybe it was theirs. The next morning, the cafe was quiet. It was still early, barely past 7, and the lobby hadn't yet filled with the usual stream of consultants, junior execs, and delivery workers rushing in and out of the Altara building. Maya stepped inside, breathing in the comforting scent of dark roast and warm pastries, and scanned the counter. A different barista stood there today, young, focused, and blessedly uninterested in her personal life. She ordered the same as always, medium dark roast, oat milk. Cinnamon and waited in the corner by the window. She held Malik's resume in her tote bag, folded but not forgotten. She hadn't opened it yet. Not because she wasn't interested, but because something about the gesture deserved more than a glance between emails. She wanted time to read it like a letter, not a document. The barista called her name. She took her cup, turned toward the exit and stopped. He was there. Malik stood just outside the cafe entrance, in uniform again, a paper cup in his hand. Noticing her, he raised his coffee slightly in greeting. Not smiling but not unfriendly. Just present. Maya walked over. Morning, she said. Morning, he replied. No line today. Guess the universe is giving me a break. They stood there in a rare stillness, people only just starting to shuffle in through the glass doors behind them. You got plans this morning? She asked. Routine check on the south stairwell, then some floor sweeps. Pretty quiet day, actually. Walk with me, Maya said. He didn't ask where. He just nodded. They walked slowly through the first floor corridor, her heels making a soft rhythm against the tile, his boots steady beside her. The building was waking up, lights brightening by degrees, maintenance carts rolling by, the occasional early tenant nodding a quick greeting. Maya glanced at him. I didn't read your resume yet. Malik didn't seem offended. Didn't expect you to overnight. But I will. I wanted to ask first. Why now? Why even hand it over? He thought for a moment, then said, because I'm tired of fixing things I'm not allowed to admit are broken. She nodded. That's a better answer than most consultants give. I'm not a consultant. Not yet, she said, grinning. They turned into the hallway that led to the main stairwell, where the floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city skyline just beginning to shimmer in the light. I've been thinking, Maya said, about something you said yesterday, about second chances being for people who never disappeared. Malik looked out the window. Yeah? I think that's wrong, she said. I think second chances are for people who knew what it cost to lose the first one. His face didn't change, but she saw something shift in his shoulders-less tension, more consideration. You're building something here, he said, but you still don't know if I'm a liability. I think you're the opposite. He turned to her. You don't know everything about me. I know enough, she said. I know how you responded to a stranger in need. I know you handled that elevator panel like it mattered, not like it was just another paycheck. And I know you've been showing up every day in a job that probably pays a fraction of what you're worth, because you don't cut corners. He didn't deny any of it, just stood there, the city behind him, quiet and unflinching. I'm offering something small, she added, a role that might not lead anywhere, but it's a real one. I'm not hiring to check a box, or because I feel sorry. I need someone who gives a damn. Malik sipped his coffee. And if I say no, then you still paid for my coffee when you didn't have to, she said. And I'll still remember that. A beat passed. Then he nodded, slow and sure. All right. All right? I'll take the role. On trial. One project. She grinned. You're not a man who overcommits, are you? He gave the faintest smile. You'd be surprised. They walked a bit farther before she stopped near the elevators. Let's meet tomorrow, she said. My office. 8:30. I'll bring the project scope. You bring questions. Malik nodded again. Deal. He turned to go, but before he could disappear into the stairwell, Maya called out. Hey, she said. I never asked what do you take in your coffee? He looked over his shoulder. Black. Always. She raised her cup. Next time's on me. He didn't answer, just nodded once more and vanished down the stairs. Maya stood there a moment longer, sipping her own coffee. This time, it didn't taste like rescue. It tasted like something beginning. At precisely 8:27 a.m., Malik knocked on Maya's office door. She'd been ready since 7:45. The desk was cleared, a manila folder placed neatly in the center, beside two steaming paper cups marked with a black M. Maya stood to greet him, gesturing toward the guest chair. Black. No sugar. Right? He took the cup with a nod of thanks and sat down without fuss, hands steady, eyes alert. He was wearing a charcoal gray sweatshirt this time, the uniform jacket folded over one arm. Something about him looked more at ease. Maybe it was the light, or maybe it was because today, he wasn't just a security guard. He was here as something more. This, Maya began, sliding the folder toward him, is a short-term project I've been circling for months. It's technical, but with ripple effects that touch everything, and I need it airtight. Malik opened the folder. Inside, schematics, access maps, data pathways, a slim breakdown of the Altara building's legacy, security, and infrastructure systems, annotated in her handwriting. You want a full audit of this place, he said after scanning for 30 seconds. Exactly. But not just what works or doesn't. I want a recommendation path, what needs upgrading, what's being patched over, what could compromise the entire operation down the line. He looked back at her. You're pitching this to the building board? Yes, eventually. For now, I'm doing it as a test case. I need proof of concept for my consulting model, something real, complex, and close to home. And they know? They will, when the timing's right. Malik nodded, eyes returning to the documents. I'd need access to archives. You'll have it. I kept some of my admin credentials. The rest I'll unlock for you today. Good, he said, because this place, it's a castle on sand. Impressive facade, but hollow beneath. Maya smiled slightly. That's why you're here. He sipped his coffee, flipping to the next page. What's the timeline? 2 weeks for the assessment. Another week to build the report. I'll need to bring in some tools. Maybe use some legacy scans. Do what you need. Just keep it quiet. I don't want to whisper of this until we're ready. He nodded. Understood. There was a moment of quiet, not awkward but focused. Then he closed the folder and looked at her. You trust me a lot, for someone who just met me. Maya shrugged gently. You trusted me enough to buy a stranger coffee. Sometimes character shows up before credentials. His mouth curved ever so slightly. Then, reaching into his pocket, he pulled out a small flash drive. I was going to wait, he said, but maybe this fits here. He passed it to her. What is it? Something I wasn't sure I'd ever use again. It's the last system audit I did for the Georgia DOT. It was for a federal proposal never got funded. But I think you'll see why it matters. Maya took it slowly, heart thudding. You kept this? Didn't want it to disappear. Sometimes records vanish when no one's watching. She slipped it into her laptop. Dozens of diagrams, layered heat maps, code protocols, hazard flags all dated, all logged with Malik's digital signature. This is incredible. He didn't respond, but the look in his eyes said he already knew. For the next hour, they sat side by side, dissecting systems, highlighting flaws in shared silences, jotting notes and tagging questions. Maya forgot to check the time. It was rare, this kind of synergy. No ego, no performance. Just two people with matching curiosity and different strengths. At 9:45, her email pinged. She glanced at it, expecting spam. But the subject line made her spine stiffen. Urgent, Prisma confidential docs, follow-up. Her finger hovered over the trackpad. She clicked. Inside, a forwarded message chain. Someone was circulating internal files from her former company. Files that should have been destroyed after legal proceedings. Attached were PDFs with budget drafts, meeting notesum with her name on them. She went still. Something wrong? Malik asked. She turned the screen toward him. He scanned quickly. Then, someone's leaking. Worse, she said. They're rewriting the story. She stood, walking to the window, coffee forgotten on her desk. I spent months settling this. There were NDAs, audit trails. But if this spreads again, Malik stood too, slowly. You think someone's targeting you? I think someone never stopped. He nodded once. You want me to look into it? She hesitated, then met his gaze. I don't want you to become a part of my past mistakes. I'm not, he said. But if someone's repackaging a lie, it won't stop until you face it. She swallowed. You're right. He stepped closer, not invading, just grounding. Let me help. I know systems technical and otherwise. Sometimes the truth gets buried under protocol. She looked at him. Then the flash drive still plugged into her laptop. Maya realized this wasn't just about infrastructure audits anymore. It was about trust. The kind you can build on. She nodded slowly. All right, let's find out who's behind this. Malik offered a small smile. Let's begin with the metadata. And just like that, the audit expanded. From steel and wiring to truth and betrayal. The metadata didn't lie. Maya and Malik worked side by side, their screens aglow with code, timestamps, and digital trails that whispered of things most people never bothered to check. The confidential PDF, supposedly old files from her former company, had been modified just weeks ago. The edits were subtle, dates changed, budget lines adjusted, a few entries added, others removed. All just believable enough to pass as original. But not untouched. They're planting evidence, Malik said, scrolling through the document history. And whoever's doing it knows what they're doing. Maya leaned closer. See that? Line 128. The font shifts by half a pixel. That was copied in. From a different machine, Malik confirmed. And not a Prisma original. This was crafted. Her heart pounded not just from anger, but from a slow brewing fear. Someone was rewriting her downfall. Not with new lies, but with surgical edits that made her look negligent, manipulative, possibly even complicit. But why now? She muttered. The dust settled. I moved on. What's the motive? Maybe you're making noise again, Malik said. Quiet noise, but someone's listening. Maya paced the room. It could be Jansen. He never forgave me for testifying against the board. Or Clarice. She always had her eye on my chair. Too many guesses, Malik said calmly. We need facts. He returned to the source email. Who forwarded you this? Maya opened the sender's address. An anonymous account. No signature, no trail. Then we trace the leak upstream, where the original files came from. Let's start with access points, cloud storage, server shadows, even private VPNs. Maya nodded, already navigating to her old archival passwords. Most of the accounts had been deactivated after the legal dust settled, but she'd kept backups, offline copies, timestamps, server logs. You kept this? Malik asked, impressed. I didn't trust the system to keep my story straight, she replied. He smirked. Good. Neither do I. For the next hour, they drilled through logs and secondary backups. Malik handled the shell scripts. Maya cross-checked with known project files. Slowly, a pattern emerged. The altered files matched a batch that had once been stored on an internal backup server only 3 people had access to. Maya, her ex-CFO Gordon Lyle, and an IT contractor named Deshaun Maris. I haven't heard that name in over a year, Maya said. Malik tapped at the keyboard. Let's see if he's still active. It didn't take long to pull up a LinkedIn profile. Deshaun now worked for a boutique cybersecurity firm that, Maya realized with a sharp intake of breath, had just landed a contract with a rival consulting company. Everson Analytics, she said aloud. They tried to poach my IP months ago. I shut them down. They're the ones using this, trying to smear me quietly. Not just smear, Malik added. They're trying to disqualify you, make you a liability, so no client will touch you. Maya sat back, stunned. I knew the industry could be brutal, but this is character assassination. Malik looked at her. What do you want to do? Fight, she said simply. But not like before, not in the press, not with lawyers. He raised a brow. Then how? We go surgical. You and me. Quiet truth. Malik nodded. Then we need evidence. Solid, verifiable, undeniable. She looked at him. I think I know where to start, but it means revisiting my old storage locker, downtown. You want backup? Maya hesitated, then said, Yeah, I do. They left the office together, sunlight pouring through the lobby glass. Outside, the world bustled unaware, traffic horns and distant music rising with the morning. Maya felt like she was moving against the current, but not alone this time. The locker facility stood in a quiet part of Midtown, nestled between a closed-down bookstore and a new vegan cafe. Maya punched in her access code and led Malik down a narrow corridor until they reached Unit 118. Inside, the air smelled faintly of cardboard and old toner. Stacks of banker boxes lined the shelves, labeled, dated, untouched since the collapse of Prisma. She pulled out a specific one. Q. 3 strategy drive AFs. Legal edits. These were the raw reports, she said. Before the board got to them, I remember Deshaun making edits under Gordon's orders. If he copied anything from here, it'll show up in the versions they just leaked. Malik opened the box and began scanning. Do you have a scanner? In the car. I'll get it. While she retrieved it, Malik found a folder marked Audit, Original Source. Inside were handwritten notes, printer timestamps, and a USB drive. By the time she returned, he had the contents laid out methodically on a folding table in the hallway. Start scanning, he said. Then we match it to the altered PDFs. If the core language matches but the structures differ, we've got a trail. Hours passed. Maya scanned. Malik annotated. They worked without pause, fueled by silent determination and one shared truth. If they didn't defend her narrative, someone else would write the ending. By late afternoon, they had enough for a pattern map. Malik drafted the timeline. Maya constructed the file tree. Finally, she looked at him. We're not done yet, but we're close. He met her chaza. Close to what? She smiled, turning the whole story inside out. Then she added, almost as an afterthought but with certainty, they picked the wrong person to erase. And Malik, with quiet fire in his eyes, replied, and the wrong man to underestimate. The past was rising again, but this time, Maya wasn't running. The office lights had dimmed into their evening setting, casting a soft glow across the walls. Outside, Atlanta was shifting from late rush hour into twilight headlights blinking on. Street sounds mellowing into a low hum. Inside Suite 1423, Maya sat at her desk, a second monitor now connected and glowing with layered PDFs, scanned handwritten notes, and metadata flowcharts. Malik stood at the whiteboard, drawing a string of arrows connecting the chain of document manipulations. He'd worked in silence for nearly an hour, analyzing timestamps, cross-referencing logins, and verifying file integrity. It was meticulous work, the kind of tedium that cracked even seasoned analysts. But not him. His focus never wavered. "This box here," Malik said, circling one of the printed flowcharts, "matches a session from the backup you pulled, but there's a difference is subtle, but consistent." Maya leaned forward. "The edit tags?" He nodded. "Exactly. The metadata points to a device that wasn't authorized for Prisma's core system, which means someone downloaded the draft externally, then doctored it. Then uploaded it again through a masked link," Maya murmured, more to herself than him, "all to make it look like the original." "That's not amateur work," Malik added. "That's someone who knew the internal layout, the data layers, the hierarchy. And only a handful of people knew that," Maya said, her jaw tightening. "I'm narrowing it down." She opened a shared file where she'd listed the core leadership and staff who had privileged access to Prisma's central server prior to her departure. Most of the names were familiar, some allies, some ghosts, but 3 names stood out: Gordon Lyle, Deshaun Maris, and Rhea Patel. Maya hesitated on that last one. Rhea had been her mentee, sharp, ambitious, and loyal, or so Maya had believed. She hadn't thought of her since the fallout. "Who's Rhea?" Malik asked, catching the pause. "She was head of predictive modeling. We worked closely. She stayed after I was pushed out." "Still in touch?" "Number last I heard, she took a position at Everson Analytics." Malik raised an eyebrow. "That's not a coincidence." "No, it's not." The pieces were aligning, though not comfortably. Maya clicked through LinkedIn, pulling up Rhea's profile. Her experience was polished, her endorsements plentiful, and under her job title at Everson was a list of active contracts including a recent security partnership with Altara Building's advisory board. Maya's breath caught. "They're embedding from inside." Malik stepped closer, reading over her shoulder. "Which means this audit project, it's not just a trial, it's a threat. If you expose the system flaws, you threaten their leverage. They're trying to discredit me before I can get the chance." Malik folded his arms. "Then we have to move first." Maya stared at the screen, the weight of the truth pressing into her chest. Rhea's betrayal hurt more than she expected. It wasn't just professional, it was personal. "She knew," Maya said softly. "She watched them drag me out." Said nothing. Malik didn't say, "That's the business." He didn't remind her of how common betrayal was in the tech world. Instead, he said, "She'll say something now, because we're going to make her." Maya looked at him, her eyes sharp. "How?" "We corner her with facts. Bring the original files, the altered versions, and the timestamps. Set up a meeting under pretense a consulting query, maybe. Then confront her, not publicly, not yet, just enough to shake the ground beneath her feet." Maya considered it. "She's not stupid. If we move too fast, she'll shut down. Then we don't threaten. We ask." "Ask what? Why?" The word landed with weight. They planned the meeting over the next 30 minutes: location, timing, tone. Maya would email Rhea directly, under her official Williams advisory letterhead, a professional invitation to consult on a neutral third-party infrastructure initiative. "Make her feel valuable," Malik said. "People let their guard down when they think they're being seen again. And if she doesn't take the bait?" "She will," he said. "Guilt always needs a place to exhale." By 9:15, the message was sent. Maya stared at her screen after clicking send, the cursor blinking on a now empty inbox. Her stomach churned, not from doubt, but anticipation. This wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming her truth. Malik grabbed his jacket. "I'll walk you to your car." "You don't have to." "I know." They stepped into the hallway together, silence wrapping around them like armor. The building had emptied, leaving only the soft echo of their footsteps and the hum of low hallway lights. Outside, the air was cooler. Maya inhaled deeply, letting it settle her nerves. They reached her Karen old Lexus hybrid, unremarkable but reliable. Before unlocking the door, she turned to him. "You've done more in a week than most people did for me in a year." Malik shrugged, hands in his pockets. "I believe in finishing what others walk away from." She smiled, then asked, "What made you stay? Not just for this, but for me?" His eyes held hers, steady as ever. "Because you're still standing." And people who've been knocked down, then choose to get back up, they usually have something worth building again. Maya nodded slowly, then unlocked her door and slid inside. As she pulled away, Malik's silhouette in the mirror stayed firm, quiet, watching. Not a protector, a partner. And tomorrow, the confrontation would begin. The cafe Maya had chosen for the meeting with Rhea was elegant but discreet, a tucked-away corner spot in Inman Park, with frosted windows and minimal traffic. It wasn't a coincidence. Maya wanted neutral ground, but she also wanted mirrors. Literally, the glass walls reflected everyone who entered, a quiet advantage for anyone looking to read body language before words. She arrived 10 minutes early. Malik was already there, seated near the back with a laptop open and his earpiece in place. He didn't look like security. He looked like someone preparing for a presentation. That was intentional. Maya didn't want Rhea to feel threatened, at least, not at first. "You ready?" she asked, sliding into the seat across from him. Malik didn't look up. She parked 2 minutes ago, alone, walking in now. Maya's throat tightened, but her expression remained composed. She took a sip of her coffee black. No cinnamon this time. No sugar to hide behind. The bell over the cafe door chimed. Rhea Patel entered with the same posture Maya remembered, confident, measured, always in control. Her tailored blazer, soft pink blouse, and minimal makeup made her look more corporate than ever. But there was something in her eyes Maya hadn't seen before. "Caution, Maya," Rhea said smoothly, approaching the table. "It's been a while." "Too long," Maya replied, rising to shake her hand. "Thank you for coming." They sat. Rhea glanced at Malik, who offered a polite nod but said nothing. "I didn't realize you had a team," Rhea said. "Just a colleague," Maya replied. "He's helping with the infrastructure audit I mentioned in my message." "Ah, yes, you said you're consulting again." Maya smiled, trying to, but the past keeps asking for attention. Rhea stiffened slightly. "Is that what this is about?" "Partly," Maya admitted. She reached into her bag and pulled out 2 folders sewn labeled original, the other altered. She placed them on the table between them. Rhea's fingers twitched, just barely. Maya spoke gently. "I want you to look at these. Compare them. You'll recognize the language, the structure, the edit paths. One of them is the version we submitted together. The other was modified." Rhea hesitated. "Maya, if this is some kind of—" "It's not a trap," Maya said firmly. "It's clarity, for both of us." After a pause, Rhea opened the first folder. Her eyes moved quickly, her lips tightening as she turned the pages. Malik sat quietly, watching her reactions through the mirror reflection on the far wall. Rhea opened the second folder, the modified one. She didn't flip the pages this time. She stared, then slowly closed it. "I didn't leak them," she said, voice low. "I swear, I didn't touch those files after the settlement." "But you knew they were being changed," Maya pressed, her tone still calm. "You were on the same chain. You saw the access logs." "I thought it was cleanup," Rhea said. "Gordon told us the backups needed aligning, that the final draft would be stored with updated formatting." "Formatting doesn't change line items," Malik said from his side of the table, speaking for the first time. Rhea blinked at him. "You're not just a colleague," she said. "No," Malik replied. "I'm the guy who traced the document back to a server in Everson's cloud shell. The same server tied to your current department." Rhea's lips parted slightly. "You traced it?" Maya leaned in. "We traced everything." Silence. Then Rhea exhaled. "I didn't want to believe it. I saw things. Yes, but I told myself it was strategic positioning. Everyone was trying to survive, Maya. You were gone. The board was unraveling. I stayed because I thought I could hold on to something. But Gordon, he was rewriting everything. And now he's using you as a shield," Malik said. "The documents were funneled through your permissions. You're the leak on paper." Rhea looked stunned, then terrified. No, I didn't approve that kind of access." "You didn't need to," Maya said. "They used your credentials, your VPN logs, probably even your work terminal." Rhea's hands trembled. "This could end me." "It won't," Maya said, softening. "But only if you help us." Rhea looked up. "What do you need?" "Testimony," Maya said. "Internal emails, Slack messages, anything you kept that shows the chain of alteration. We're not going public yet, but we're going to the Altara board." And then, if needed, the regulators. I have a backup drive, Ria said slowly. Encrypted. I kept it, as insurance, in case I was ever blamed. You'll give us access? Malik asked. Ria nodded. Yes. Maya looked at her for a long moment. Why now? Because you're still standing, Ria said. And I'm tired of hiding behind people who wouldn't even flinch if I took the fall. Maya stood. Send the files to this address. Malik will verify them. We'll protect your name for now. Ria rose too. I never meant to hurt you. You didn't, Maya said quietly. But you didn't stop the people who did. With that, Ria walked out, her heels sharp against the cafe floor. She didn't look back. Malik closed the folders. Think she'll follow through? Maya nodded. She's too scared not to. As they stepped outside, the sky had darkened fully. Street lamps flickered to life, casting gold halos on the sidewalk. Maya exhaled deeply. That was the first crack, she said. And the foundation's next, Malik replied. They didn't smile. They didn't celebrate. But they walked forward step by step toward the truth. 3 days later, Maya sat in the glass-paneled conference room on the 17th floor of the Altara building. The long oak table stretched between her and 6 board members, some familiar. Some not, but all with eyes sharpened by years of cautious dealings and controlled risk. Malik sat beside her, a quiet pillar in his navy jacket, arms crossed and unreadable. The morning light slanted through the blinds, casting angled shadows like marks on a chessboard. Miss Williams, began Harold Duane, the board's chair. We've reviewed your proposal for the infrastructure audit, and we appreciate your initiative. However, we're uncertain why this meeting needed to be off calendar. Maya nodded calmly. Because the issue isn't just about wires or HVAC systems. It's about integrity. A pause followed. Duane exchanged glances with the woman to his left, Rebecca Lynn, who adjusted her glasses and leaned forward. Are you alleging fraud, Miss Williams? I'm alleging manipulation, Maya said, and the use of falsified documents to alter the narrative of my departure from Prismai. Duane's brow lifted. We were under the impression your separation was settled. So was I, Maya said. She reached into her briefcase and slid a USB across the table. That drive contains mirrored files from the original Prismai audit, including system backups, server metadata, and access logs showing changes made under false credentials. The alterations were used to disqualify me from key contracts, including the one currently under review by your board. The room went still. Malik placed a printed flowchart on the table, his tone low but firm. The altered files passed through a VPN assigned to Ria Patel, currently employed by Everson Analytics, your security consulting firm. Whispers stirred. One of the board members, a younger man in a pinstripe suit, looked up sharply. You're saying one of our vendors tampered with your past? They used Ria's credentials, Maya said. Without her knowledge, we have her signed testimony. And a backup drive proving internal communications from Gordon Lyle coordinating the data alteration. Another wave of silence followed. Malik watched the board carefully. No one looked surprised. But one Mana Heavyset member near the end of the table shifted in his chair with a little too much discomfort. Maya noticed. She turned to him directly. Mr. Carlyle, I believe you were on the advisory committee when Everson was approved for Altara. Carlyle straightened. Yes, I was. Were you aware of their previous conflict of interest in consulting on cases involving former Prismai personnel? He hesitated. That information wasn't disclosed at the time. Maya's voice remained even. It was withheld, by design, because if it had been revealed, you never would have approved them. Rebecca Lynn looked at Carlyle sharply now. Is this true? I was presented with a clean report. Maya stood slowly, pushing back her chair without drama. This building deserves better. You deserve better. I don't want revenge. I want transparency. And I want the opportunity to rebuild something without having my reputation dragged by ghosts who manipulate systems for power. Duane tapped his fingers together. And what do you want from us? 3 things, Maya said, clear and direct. First, I want Everson Analytics suspended pending a formal review. Second, I want to be reinstated as a candidate for your infrastructure modernization initiative, based solely on my current audit findings. And third, I want the board to issue a private letter clearing my name, acknowledging that no evidence of misconduct was ever formally verified. Dwayne nodded slowly. You're asking for more than just a project. I'm asking for a clean slate, and for you to stop rewarding the people who played dirtier simply because they're louder. The board conferred in quiet murmurs for a moment. Maya remained standing, heart steady, gaze unflinching. Finally, Dwayne turned back. We'll require 48 hours to validate your claims. If what you've provided checks out, and I suspect it will, we'll take immediate action. In the meantime, your proposal will remain active. Thank you, Maya said, voice low but firm. Malik stood beside her. As they exited the room, the weight that had been pressing against her spine for months seemed to shift, not vanish, but move from burden to balance, from fear to momentum. In the hallway, Malik looked at her. You did it. Not yet, she said, but I stopped hiding. He nodded. That's more than most people ever manage. They returned to her office, where Maya collapsed into her chair and closed her eyes for a moment. Think they'll follow through? She asked. They will, Malik said. You brought evidence, not emotion. She opened her eyes, meeting his. I wouldn't have gotten this far without you. Maybe not, he said quietly, but I wouldn't have started again without you either. There was a long pause, comfortable this time. No masks, no posing. Then her phone buzzed. A new email. Subject: confidential, board response. She opened it. Inside was a single line. We have suspended Everson Analytics pending internal review. A full investigation is underway. Please prepare for a follow-up presentation. She exhaled, then looked at Malik. Now, she said, her voice gaining heat, we rebuild. He nodded once. And this time, with steel instead of glass. The truth had found a crack, and the light was pouring through. 2 weeks later, the lobby of the Altara building had a different kind of buzz. The temporary removal of Everson Analytics hadn't gone unnoticed. Employees whispered at water coolers and behind elevator doors. Rumors bloomed, but no one had the full picture, only that something significant had shifted in the air, like a storm cloud had passed, and the sky hadn't yet decided if it was clear or just quiet before the next wave. Maya stepped through the turnstiles with a quiet confidence. Her name was back on the docket, but more importantly, her voice now held weight again, not out of pity or drama, but because she'd brought proof, the kind of quiet evidence no board could ignore. At her side, Malik carried a black satchel, heavier than usual. Inside was the polished proposal for the Altara modernization project, a full infrastructure overhaul that fused safety, energy, conservation, and system resilience. It wasn't flashy, it was solid, honest, like the person presenting it. They reached the elevator and stepped inside. You ready? Malik asked. Maya smiled faintly. I've been ready since the day they wrote me off. Then let's remind them what happens when a Williams builds the foundation. The elevator doors opened onto the executive floor. A receptionist greeted them with more warmth than usual, as though the building itself had realigned its loyalties. Maya and Malik entered the presentation room. 5 keyboard members sat waiting, documents in hand, but this time the atmosphere wasn't rigid, it was alert, curious, respectful. Miss Williams, Dwayne said, gesturing to the screen, we're eager to see what your team has prepared. Maya took a breath, then launched into it. She outlined a phased rollout for fiber optic reinforcement, digital locking systems integrated with facial recognition, privacy compliant, fire suppression tech designed for multi-use buildings, and energy flow algorithms that reduced peak hour strain without compromising tenant safety. Malik chimed in on the technical specs, responding to detailed questions with calm precision. The board members scribbled notes, nodded thoughtfully. By the end of the hour, Rebecca Lynn leaned forward. This isn't just a proposal, she said. This is a blueprint for how we should be thinking 5 years from now. Maya didn't smile, but her voice held calm strength. That's what it's meant to be. Dwayne cleared his throat. We'll reconvene for a vote tomorrow. But if you don't mind my saying, this is the most thorough submission we've received. Maya nodded. I appreciate that. They left the room together, Malik holding the door. Back in the hallway, Maya allowed herself a moment, a pause in motion, a breath of stillness. You think we got it? She asked. Malik looked down at her, his voice steady. I think we've already won. What happens now is just the paperwork. Maya laughed softly, then her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated. Malik nodded toward the window alcove. She stepped away and answered. Hello? A voice she hadn't heard in over a year filled her ear. Didn't think I'd be seeing your name again, Williams. It was Gordon Lyle. Her stomach twisted, but her tone didn't change. Didn't think I was still on your mind, Lyle. You're stirring old ashes, he said. Dangerous hobby. I prefer to call it cleaning up someone else's mess. He laughed, low and bitter. You always were good at spinning, but you don't know who you're messing with. I think I do, she said coolly, and I think your time's running out. A pause. Then his voice lowered. You want advice? Walk away. Quietly. You win the contract. Fine. But stop digging. Because if you don't, the next time it won't be emails and metadata. Click. The call ended. Maya stood frozen for a beat. Not from fear but from recognition. Gordon was panicking. He'd called her directly, which meant he'd lost control of the narrative. She turned to Malik. Problem? He asked. No, she said. Confirmation. She explained the call in short detail, and Malik nodded grimly. Then we're closer than I thought. We need to act fast, she said, before he moves anything or anyone. Back at the office, they set to work again. Maya reached out to a contact she still had in regulatory compliance former SEC. Meanwhile, Malik mapped out a second layer of the file tree, tracking every document they hadn't yet submitted. If Gordon thought they were bluffing, he was about to be reminded what real accountability looked like. Just before midnight, Rhea Patel called. Her voice was tight. I received an email from Gordon's assistant. She asked me to revisit some old archive policies. Maya, he's about to scrub the server. Do you still have the backup? Maya asked quickly. Yes. I copied everything last week like you said. Then bring it, first thing tomorrow, and come through the service entrance. I'll be there. Maya hung up, then looked at Malik, who was already pulling up their server mirror. We're running out of time, he said. Then we don't sleep. And they didn't. Because some foundations aren't just poured, they're defended. Brick by line of code, stone by signature, and by morning. Maya intended to make sure that Gordon Lyle's empire of lies cracked straight down the center. By dawn, the office was a mess of cables, open laptops, empty coffee cups, and paper files spread across 2 desks and a conference table. Malik worked silently, his eyes red-rimmed but sharp, reviewing the third forensic scan of the mirrored servers. Maya sat on the floor, back against the cabinet, reviewing testimony snippets and legal documents. The hum of the city waking up outside barely registered. Time didn't feel real only, the pressure did. At 7:12 a.m., Rhea Patel arribed. She wore a hoodie, sunglasses, and a crossbody bag that clung tightly to her frame like she expected it to be snatched at any moment. Malik opened the back entrance for her and locked it behind them. She didn't say much, just walked straight to the table and set down a hard drive wrapped in a Ziploc bag. This is everything, she said. Emails, meeting logs, file edit trails, even a recorded voice memo from one of our strategy calls. Gordon's on it. Maya stood, took the drive carefully, and looked Rhea in the eye. Thank you. Rhea's lips trembled. If this blows back on me, it won't, Maya assured. You came forward. That matters. I'll make sure it counts. Malik connected the drive and ran a quick scan. Encrypted? Rhea nodded. Standard AES 256. Passphrase protected. The phrase is, Stone remembers the fire. Malik typed it in, and the drive unlocked. Folders bloomed into view, each marked with dates and project labels. Maya leaned in. Her eyes caught a file labeled, Lyle Strategy, Q Pushback. She opened it. Inside was a PDF memo, time-stamped and signed off by Gordon. It detailed a series of manipulations, suppressing old audit logs, altering budget statements, and planting disqualifying remarks about Maya in internal memos. It also referenced a clean narrative package for external stakeholders designed to undermine her credibility and redirect legal attention away from Prisma's board failures. Then there was a second file, a recording. Rhea hit play. Gordon's voice came through, clear and arrogant. I don't care what she knows now. We buried her once. If she resurfaces, we smear her again. We've got the leverage. We've got the contracts. She doesn't have the spine for another fight. The room was dead silent when the clip ended. Maya didn't blink. We have everything we need. She moved with purpose now, gathering the printed files, copying key contents to a fresh, secure drive. Malik compiled the final report-binding testimony, file evidence, and the recording into a seamless presentation package. Rhea remained quiet, her hands folded tightly in her lap. What happens now? She asked finally. Maya looked up. Now we burn the mask. By 10:30 a.m., they stood once again in front of the Altara board, same room, same faces, but this time, the air crackled with something deeper than tension. It was reckoning. Duane sat straighter than usual. Rebecca Lynn had her reading glasses off and was rubbing her temples. The younger board members looked at Maya not with skepticism, but expectation. She stood. In light of new evidence, Maya began, I'm submitting a formal grievance and a verified report detailing ethical violations by Gordon Lyle both during his tenure at Prismi and through indirect manipulation of this building's vendor selection process. She passed the drive forward. Contained within are email chains, document alterations, forged metadata, and a voice recording. These materials show clear intent to discredit me, alter records, and obstruct fair contracting procedures within this board's scope of influence. Duane held up a hand. We'll review. No, Maya said, her voice unwavering. You'll listen first, then review. She clicked play on a small speaker. Gordon's voice filled the room again, dripping with condescension and entitlement. When the recording ended, no one moved. Then Rebecca spoke, her voice razor sharp. You brought us a cancer. She turned to Duane. And we welcomed it. Maya took a breath. I'm not here to humiliate anyone. But I won't let silence protect people who break systems for profit. This isn't about me anymore. It's about truth. And who gets to write it? Duane finally looked up. Miss Williams, we owe you more than a vote. He turned to the board. I propose we initiate immediate proceedings to ban all future contracts with Everson Analytics and refer Mr. Lyle's actions to legal counsel for formal investigation. I second that, Rebecca said. All in favor? Duane asked. 5 hands raised. The motion passed. Maya exhaled, but not in relief. In release. It wasn't over. Gordon would fight. He'd deny. He might even threaten more. But now she had institutional truth on her side. And that was something he couldn't edit. Outside, Malik waited for her in the hallway. She stepped into the light with slower steps, each one measured. It's done, she said. He nodded. Then now we begin. Begin what? The real work, he replied, building what they tried to bury. Maya looked out the window at the skyline, familiar, but somehow different now. Not just rebuilding, she said, redefining. And behind her, for the first time in far too long, the door didn't close. It stayed open, wide and waiting. 1 week after the board meeting, the Altara building buzzed with more than just electricity. There was change in the era, tangible current. Construction plans were underway for Maya's infrastructure proposal, but it wasn't just drywall and wiring. It was a cultural renovation, a reminder that accountability could exist, and that voices buried under corporate silence could echo back with force. Maya stood in the project war room, an open space now overtaken by drafting tables, blueprint scrolls, whiteboards, and a large touchscreen panel that lit up with architectural renderings. Malik was briefing the new subcontractors. Rhea stood at the side table, entering compliance notes into a shared database. She wasn't just helping. She was rebuilding her own narrative, step by step, task by task. Maya watched her a moment longer than necessary. There was a weight in Raya's shoulders that hadn't lifted yet. Redemption was slower than justice. It required time, not just truth. You good? Malik asked, coming up beside her with a cup of black coffee. She took it. Getting there. The board officially sent the legal referral today, he said. Lyle's been subpoenaed. Internal memos already leaked to the Times. Maya took a sip. Steady. He'll spin it. For a while, Malik nodded. But you laid a trail even he can't outrun. And now, people are watching. She stared at the touchscreen, zooming in on a floor section, the 10th level, the security wing. I want every system triple verified, she said. No backdoors, no shadow access. and give tenants opt-in transparency logs. Already coded, Malik said. I thought like you would. She glanced at him, half smiling. It's still strange. What is? That someone trusted me with this again. He didn't smile, just answered plainly, you earned it. Later that afternoon, Maya met with local officials to discuss the rollout's impact on neighborhood traffic and public services. She spoke clearly, no longer shying away from press presence or lingering glances. If anything, she welcomed them. She had no PR team smoothing edges. What she had was scar sand. They made her story sharper than any slogan. When she returned to her office, she found a letter on her desk. No name, just cream-colored paper, hand-folded. She opened it. Maya, we haven't spoken since the fall. I wanted to hate you then. You left, and I stayed, and everything crumbled anyway. But I saw what you did. I watched you stand when silence would have been safer. You didn't save the company. You saved the people who were still trying to do right by it. This isn't forgiveness. It's acknowledgement. You were right, and I was small. You deserved better, and now you're building it. Keep going. Jay. Maya read the letter twice, then folded it and placed it inside her journal, tucked neatly between 2 pages of hand-drawn diagrams for data-sharing workflows. She didn't know if Jay was someone she had trusted once, or someone who had watched from the sidelines. But it didn't matter. Words like that didn't need names. They needed echoes. At dusk, she walked the construction floor, hard hat on, boots scuffed, clipboard in hand. The crew respected her not out of fear, but for the way she listened when they spoke and didn't pretend to know more than she did. She asked questions. She wrote things down. She remembered names. An older electrician named Tom approached her near the fire exit shaft. Miss Williams, he said, we're about to seal this junction. Just confirming the override protocol stays tied to the biometric scan? Correct, Maya said, but mirror it to the central feed. I want full visibility if the main fails. Smart, Tom said, nodding. You run a tight ship. Just trying to build one that doesn't sink, she replied. As she turned to leave, he called out again. Ma'am, we've worked on dozens of upgrades in this city. No one's ever walked the floor with us. Not like this. Maya paused. Everyone deserves to be seen. He smiled. Then you're the kind of captain we remember. That night, as she closed up her office, Malik handed her a flash drive. What's this? She asked. The final audit package, he said. Every contractor verified, every log signed, every inch of this project traceable, no shadows. She looked at the small metal stick. Proof. He nodded. Of what happens when we build clean. Maya pocketed the drive. Let's make sure that stays our blueprint. Outside, the city shimmered beneath a settling dusk. Lights flickered on in the skyline, but not in chaos-like breath, slow and deliberate. And Maya Williams, once erased, now stood among it, not in the shadows of someone else's empire, but on ground she had cleared, repaired, and anchored with her own hands. The foundation was hers now, and this time, it wouldn't crack. Saturday morning arrived with a stillness Maya hadn't felt in months. The city had taken a breath, and for the first time in a long while, she let herself take one too. No meetings, no boardrooms, no sudden calls. She stood on the balcony of her apartment with a cup of coffee, watching the sky shift from lavender to light blue. Down below, joggers moved along the belt line, dogs barked, and somewhere in the distance, a saxophone played softly, likely an old man she'd seen before, always near the bakery, always lost in his music. It felt like the city was returning something to her. Space. Her phone buzzed against the patio table. Malik's name lit up the screen. She answered, voice light. Tell me you're calling about breakfast. I could be convinced, he replied, a smile in his tone. But you might want to check the front page of the Tribune first. Maya walked back inside, flipped open her tablet, and pulled up the morning headlines. Fraud, files, and the fight for truth. How a former CEO exposed the system from the inside. Her picture was there, not posed, but captured during the board meeting. She looked strong, centered, eyes steady beneath the caption. Maya's chest tightened, not in fear, but recognition. The story was out, not just the details, but the shape of it, the struggle, the silence, the stand. Malik continued. You'll be getting a dozen calls today. They quoted Rhea too. She didn't hold back. Maya scanned the article, noting the careful balance of facts and narrative. The reporter, a woman named Eliza Rankin, had done her homework. She included Maya's exile, the false evidence, the data trail they uncovered, and most importantly, the rebuild. Eliza didn't paint Maya as a victim. She wrote her as a force. Maya whispered, "It's finally out." "Yeah," Malik said. "And now the world knows it wasn't just personal, it was systemic." There was a pause. Then he added, "So, breakfast?" "Absolutely," she said. "But I'm buying." They met at a quiet cafe tucked under an awning in Old Fourth Ward, the kind of place with mismatched mugs and cinnamon on everything. Malik already had a seat, his laptop open, fingers drumming. Maya slid into the booth across from him, taking in the comforting smell of pancakes and roasted beans. As they ate, the conversation wandered from server specs to summer music, to the fact that Maya had once tried, and failed, to rollerblade in college. Malik grinned. "You? Falling?" "Flat on my back," she said. "Took 3 weeks for the bruises to fade. You seem like the type who'd get up, lace them tighter, and try again." "I did," she smiled, "and still fell, but I kept skating." They both laughed. It was easy, earned. Midway through her coffee refill, Maya's phone buzzed again. This time, the caller ID read, Angela Grayson, SEC Compliance Office. She exchanged a look with Malik before answering. Maya Williams. Angela's voice was brisk. "Miss Williams, I wanted to inform you that based on the submitted documents and recordings, we're opening a formal inquiry into the practices described in your testimony. We'll be issuing subpoenas to Gordon Lyle and several former executives within Prisma and Everson Analytics. You may be called to give additional information." "I understand," Maya said. "I'll cooperate fully. We'll need a statement on record, preferably by next Friday. I'll have it to you by Wednesday." Angela paused. "For what it's worth, not many people follow through like you did. It matters." Maya blinked, suddenly overwhelmed by the weight of it all. "Thank you," she said softly. After the call, she looked at Malik. "It's official. They're coming for him." He leaned back. "Good. Let the system eat what it birthed." As they left the cafe, the warmth of the day bloomed around them. Maya walked slower, letting herself absorb it all, the normalcy, the purpose, the knowledge that every hour of sleep lost, every moment of fear, every near defeat had led here. At a red light, a young woman passed her, then turned around. "Excuse me, are you Maya Williams?" "Yes," Maya said gently. The woman beamed. "I just read about you this morning. I'm in systems design, just starting out. You made me believe this industry might still be worth fighting for." Maya's throat caught. She managed, "Thank you. That means everything." When the woman disappeared down the block, Maya turned to Malik. "Did you hear that?" He nodded. "I did. She doesn't even know the half of it." "She doesn't have to," he said. "She sees the result. And maybe that was enough. Not every war needed to be explained. Some just needed to be won, visibly, honestly, so others could know it was possible." Back at the office that afternoon, Maya sat at her desk and finally allowed herself to look at a folder she hadn't opened since before her fall. Inside were the original mission statements for Prisma, her notes, her vision, all written in her hand. She didn't cry. She just picked up a pen, crossed out the old title, and wrote a new one, Williams Data Integrity Group. Then she opened a fresh document. Because the next fight wasn't about clearing her name. It was about protecting others before they ever had to fight alone. Monday arrived, not with urgency, but with clarity. Maya Williams stepped into the new office space, bare walls, open ceilings, and a smell of fresh paint. It wasn't furnished yet. There were no sleek desks, no nameplates, not even a proper server rack. But to her, it was perfect, a blank canvas with integrity as the foundation. Malik stood near the back window, a blueprint for their layout held loosely in one hand and a bagel in the other. "No one's ever given me an office where I get to pick the coffee machine," he said with a grin. Maya smiled. "Then I guess we're already disrupting norms." Disrupting them with stainless steel, dual-temperature espresso makers?" "Absolutely," she said. "We're building justice and quality caffeine." They both laughed, the sound echoing through the empty space. By mid-morning, 2 other members had arrived, an engineer Maya had worked with in her early years, now seeking something meaningful again, and a systems analyst who left a high-paying position at a cybersecurity firm after reading Maya's Tribune feature. Neither came for money. They came for mission. The energy in the room was electric but focused. This wasn't about starting over. It was about building forward. At noon, Malik wheeled in a cart with sandwiches and a stack of printed agendas. "All right," Maya said, gathering everyone around a folding table. "This isn't going to be a regular company. It's a shield. It's a standard. And it's going to scare people who rely on confusion to win." She handed out the first agenda labeled, "Williams Data Integrity Group, Phase 1. We start with 5 accounts," she said. "Smaller institutions, community colleges, public housing tech systems, not because they pay the most, but because they deserve systems they can trust. No manipulation, no hidden fees, no exploitation." A murmur of agreement spread around the group. It wasn't just idealism, it was purpose. "And second," Maya continued, "we'll launch a transparency platform. One the public can use to verify who's auditing their systems. Every client we serve will get a digital ledger, open to the public. Let them see where their data goes. Let them see who has access to their records." Malik added, "And we make the ledger immutable, blockchain-backed, open source." The engineer whistled low. "That'll make some contractors nervous." "Good," Maya said. After the meeting, while the others returned to configuring equipment and running early system tests, Maya stepped out for a walk. The streets of Atlanta buzzed with their usual Monday rhythm-honking horns, sidewalk chatter, the occasional hum of a passing bus. She turned a corner and found herself outside an old bookstore she used to visit years ago, back when she was just beginning her career. Inside, it was quiet. Dust caught the light in the aisles. She wandered between shelves until her fingers brushed against the spine of a book she hadn't seen in years, The Ethics of Systems Design. Her mentor had given it to her. She remembered the inscription, "Build not just for today's hands, but for tomorrow's trust." She bought the book again. Not because she needed it, but because some symbols are worth reclaiming. Back at the office, her phone buzzed again, another unknown number. She answered, half expecting another regulator or media inquiry. But it was a voice from her past. "Miss Williams, this is Marcus Elwood, former member of the Prismi Shareholder Council. We haven't met directly, but I've followed your story closely." Maya's posture straightened. "Yes, Mr. Elwood, I'm familiar with your name. I've recently acquired an interest in revitalizing legacy, companies those gutted by short-sighted leadership. And I think Prismi, with the right foundation, could become something meaningful again." She was silent. He continued, "I'm putting together a board, new names, clean names, and I'd like you on it, as chair." The room stilled. Maya exhaled slowly. "That company destroyed me." "It wasn't the company," he said quietly. "It was who we let run it. You proved that. I have my own firm now." "Exactly. That's why we need you. You understand what's at stake, and people trust you. Not because you tell them what they want, but because you tell them what they need." Maya glanced across the room at her team, Malik reviewing firewall protocols, the analyst drafting UI sketches, the engineer laughing at a wiring diagram. They weren't just co-workers, they were believers. "I'll think about it," she said. "That's all I ask," Elwood replied. "We're trying to plant something better. You've already done that once. Think about doing it again." When the call ended, Maya looked at her reflection in the office window, stronger, clearer, steadier than she remembered. She didn't know if she'd return to Prismi. But what she did know was this. Rebuilding didn't always mean going back. Sometimes, it meant choosing different soil. And this new ground, this foundation she was standing on, was already growing something real. The next morning, Maya sat in the sunlit corner of her new office, laptop open, a half-filled mug of dark roast beside her. She stared at the blinking cursor on a new email draft addressed to Marcus Elwood. The subject line was empty, the body of the message still blank. Her fingers hovered above the keys, but no words came. Across the room, Malik entered with a rolled-up schematic and 2 cups of coffee. "You haven't hit send yet, have you?" he asked. Maya didn't look up. "Not yet." He placed one of the cups beside her, then leaned against the filing cabinet. "You don't have to go back to fix what they broke." "I know," she said. But part of me wonders if that name can mean something again. Or if it's forever poisoned. Malik gave her a long look. Maya, the name Prisma isn't what matters. You are. You're what people remember when they hear that name now. She nodded slowly, not convinced, but not dismissing it either. Just then, her assistant Tonya, a young single mom who'd come from a nonprofit tech firm, poked her head into the room. Sorry to interrupt, but we've got visitors. 3 high school seniors. They say they came because of the article. One of them brought her resume. Maya raised an eyebrow. High school? They want internships, Tonya said, half smiling. And they're very determined. Maya stood, smoothing the sleeves of her jacket. Bring them in. A few minutes later, 3 teenagers stood nervously in front of her desk. One was tall and soft-spoken with a laptop bag that looked older than he was. Another had electric blue braids and a notebook covered in code sketches. The last, a quiet girl in thick-rimmed glasses, clutched a folder with trembling fingers. We read about what you did, the girl said, voice tight but brave. We didn't know people like you existed in tech. People who don't just survive, but fight. Maya blinked, caught off guard by the sincerity. And we want to learn, the boy added, not just how to code, but how to protect people. Maya sat back in her chair, heart full. Then you're already halfway there, she said softly. She motioned to Tonya. Find them 3 chairs and sign them up for shadowing. They start today. The girl gasped, visibly shocked. Seriously? Maya smiled. Seriously, but only if you're ready to ask hard questions and never take silence for an answer. The boy nodded solemnly. We are. After they left, Malik returned to her office. You didn't just build a company, he said. You built a legacy. Maya turned back to her laptop. The email to Elwood still blinked. This time she typed, Marcus, thank you for the offer. I understand what it means and what it could become. I believe in reform, but I also believe in accountability. Before I agree to anything, I'll need full transparency, past and present board records, contracts, and compliance history. If Prisma is to rise again, it must be from truth, not nostalgia, and it must not carry the weight of erasure. I'm open to a conversation. But the terms won't come from what was. They'll come from what's needed now. Maya, she hit send, then closed the laptop, stood, and walked to the large dry erase board near the window. On it were the core values of the Williams Data Integrity Group. Truth, transparency, trust. Below that, she added a new line in thick, deliberate strokes. Teach the next generation. That afternoon, the interns returned. The blue-haired girl shadowed Malik, eyes wide as he explained secure data protocols. The quiet boy followed the systems analyst through server code line by line. And the girl with the trembling hands? She stayed by Maya's side, soaking up every detail about contracts, audits, and ethical decision-making in tech. At one point, she asked, what if I get it wrong? Maya looked at her and replied gently, then you learn. And then you do it right. Later that day, a delivery arrived at a heavy envelope, hand-carried. Inside was a preliminary legal agreement from Marcus Elwood's team. Attached was a short note in Elwood's handwriting. Let's build it clean this time. Or not at all. Maya placed it on her desk. She wouldn't sign it yet, but she'd read it, carefully. She owed that to the name that still whispered to her past, and to the future she was fighting for. As the sun dipped and the city lights flickered on, Maya Williams stood in her office no longer fighting for a seat at the table, but designing new tables altogether. She didn't rebuild the old world. She started a better one, brick by brick, voice by voice. And her name now, it didn't just hold weight, it carried others with it. By the following morning, Maya had read through every page of the legal agreement from Marcus Elwood's team. The offer was clear, a new board, new bylaws, and a transparent governance model for the rebirth of Prisma under a revised name, Prisma Equity Technologies. They wanted Maya not only as chair but also as a symbolic recommitment to the values they claimed to uphold now. It was a compelling proposal. Perhaps even sincere, but trust wasn't built on clean documents. It was built on the motives behind them. She sat at her desk, Elwood's packet open beside her, and reviewed the list of proposed board members. Some names she recognized respected figures in ethical tech, known advocates. But one name made her pause: Linda Theroux. Linda had been part of the old executive panel, though never directly tied to Maya's expulsion. She had signed off on key compliance reviews without raising flags. Maya picked up her phone and dialed. "Marcus," she said when he answered. "I have questions." He responded immediately. "I assumed you might." "Linda Theroux. Why is she on this list?" There was a silence. Then, "Because she's changed." "That's not an answer." "She approached me last year," he explained. "Said she regretted staying silent during the last collapse, that she wanted to help rebuild what she once let decay." "She didn't just stay silent," Maya said, her voice tightening. "She endorsed the silence. I know, and I won't defend it. But part of rebuilding is letting people prove themselves differently." Maya didn't reply right away. She looked out the window, watching the early morning workers pouring into the streets, coffees in hand, earbuds in place, their lives moving forward. "I'll meet with her," Maya finally said. "One conversation, in person." Marcus agreed, and they scheduled it for the next afternoon. The rest of the day unfolded with its usual momentum. The interns continued their workature, determined, still wide-eyed but no longer tentative. Maya had them rotate through different departments, learning infrastructure design, compliance mapping, and the basics of ethical hacking. During a break, the girl with glasses, Alyssa, approached Maya, holding a printout of a network topology. "Miss Williams, I noticed a redundancy gap in our East Side data cluster. It's minor, but if we had a major failure, we'd lose trace logs before backup captures them." Maya took the page, eyebrows raised. "You caught this on your own?" Alyssa nodded. "I like tracing failure points. It's like reverse engineering the truth." Maya smiled slowly. "You're going to go far." Later that evening, as the office cleared out and golden light poured through the windows, Maya sat in her chair, the air still, the legal packet from Elwood still open beside her. Malik entered, holding a small paper bag. "Dinner," he said. "Since I knew you wouldn't leave." She accepted it with a smile, pulling out a sandwich and a bottle of mineral water. "You read the whole thing?" he asked. "Yes." "And?" "It's clean on paper, but the history isn't." He nodded, chewing thoughtfully. "What's it really about, Maya? Going back? Or being the one who decides what back means?" She looked at him, something turning in her chest. "Maybe it's about ensuring no one else gets swallowed like I did. Maybe I don't trust them to do it without someone at the table who remembers." "You'd be that memory," he said. "And the reckoning," she added. The next day, Maya arrived early at the cafe where she'd agreed to meet Linda Theroux. It was neutral, ground public, quiet, and far enough from both their offices that no one would overhear casually. Linda arrived 10 minutes late, looking older, thinner, and somehow less sure of herself than Maya remembered. She wore a simple gray suit and carried no bag, just a small leather folder. "Maya," she said softly as she approached. "Thank you for agreeing to meet." Maya gestured to the seat opposite her. "Let's keep this direct." Linda nodded. "I don't expect forgiveness. I only want to explain why I'm here now." "You were there then," Maya said evenly. "When the audits were skewed, when the contracts were manipulated, when Gordon pushed me out. You saw it." "I did," Linda whispered, "and I said nothing, because I was afraid." "That's not an excuse," Maya said. "That's an admission of cowardice." "Yes," Linda replied, tears threatening behind her glasses. "And I live with it every day. I watched you go down for something you tried to stop, and I told myself I couldn't fight Gordon because I didn't have your strength. But that lie no longer protects me. It only shames me." Maya sat in silence for a long moment. Linda continued. "Marcus offered me a seat, and I told him I wouldn't take it unless I could speak with you first. If my presence endangers the mission, I'll step down." Maya studied her. Every instinct told her not to trust so quickly. But she had also learned something deeper since her return. Sometimes, change came not with fire, but with witness, with someone who remembered the cracks and chose not to ignore them again. "I won't vouch for you," Maya said, "but I'll hold you accountable. Every vote, every decision, you'll answer to the standard we build." Linda nodded. "That's all I ask." When they parted, Maya didn't shake her hand, but she didn't turn away either. Back at the office, she opened her journal, where she'd written the words months ago. Protect what matters. Remember what it cost. She circled them. Then she wrote a new line. Let the past witness the future. And for the first time, she began to think that maybe not certainly, but maybe Prisma Equity Technologies could become something true. If, and only if, it grew from the roots of honesty. 2 weeks later, Maya sat in a darkened hall filled with rows of folding chairs and faces, lit only by the dim stage lights of the Midtown Civic Auditorium. The event had been labeled a Tech Futures Forum, but it had become something more: an assembly of reformers, industry critics, community advocates, and students who had followed her story from headline to hope. The moderator cleared her throat and adjusted her microphone. Our final panelist this evening needs little introduction. Maya Williams is the founder of the Williams Data Integrity Group and the catalyst behind recent systemic changes within Prisma and beyond. She's here to talk about what it takes to fight back and to build something better. Applause swelled, not theatrical, but charged, real. Maya stood from her chair backstage and stepped onto the platform. She didn't carry notes. She didn't need them. Her story was already inside her bones. She looked out into the sea of faces, young, old, brown, white, hopeful, skeptical, and then she spoke. I wasn't supposed to come back, she began simply. They made sure of that, not with locks or lawsuits, but with silence. That's how most of us are erased, not loudly, but slowly, quietly. She let the silence linger for a beat, then continued. When I was pushed out, the world didn't stop. No one marched, no one protested. I was just another name buried beneath a line item on someone else's quarterly report. But that's the trick, isn't it? Making us think we're alone. People shifted in their seats, nodded. But we're not. And that's the lie they fear most, that we might find each other. That we might rebuild, not in spite of what they broke, but because of it. She paused. Today, the company that once silenced me asked me to return. To lead. Not as a token, but as a standard. And I accepted. Gasps echoed through the hall. Yes, she said, meeting their gaze. But not to restore the past. I'm not going back to resurrect what failed. I'm going to make sure it never fails like that again. A beat. And I won't do it alone. She looked toward the edge of the stage where Malik stood with Ria and the interns, all of them visible to the audience now. Alyssa waved shyly. Malik gave her the faintest, proudest nod. Maya continued. Because systems aren't just software, they're people. And if we want honest code, we need honest architects. The room erupted into applause, not polite, not performative. It was thunderous. It echoed in the metal rafters and sent chills through Maya's spine. After the panel, a small line formed near the side exit. Maya stayed. She shook hands, signed a few programs, and listened to every story, shared stories of workplace retaliation, of data misuse, of women and people of color trying to fight invisible rules. At the end of the line, a man in a well-worn blazer approached. I'm a whistleblower, he said softly. I haven't gone public yet. But your story, it reminded me I'm not crazy. They do rewrite things to make us the villain. Maya nodded. You're not crazy, you're just early. He laughed through his nervousness. Will you help me? She didn't hesitate. Yes. That night, back in her office, Maya stood at the window looking out across the Atlanta skyline. The city pulsed with its usual rhythm, but something felt different now, not calm or more alive. Malik entered, holding a flash drive. For you. She took it. What's on it? Test data. From the new compliance software. We ran it on 2 public agencies. It found 4 critical blind spots in just 6 hours, and auto-flagged 2 access violations in real time. Maya smiled. We're building it. We're already it, Malik replied. She turned the flash drive over in her fingers. He added more quietly. You sure about going back to Prisma? Maya exhaled. Yes, because this time I'm not walking into their house. I'm redesigning the foundation, on our terms. Later that week, Maya walked into the new Prisma headquarters. The glass doors were new. The name updated Prisma Equity Technologies, but the bones were familiar. Too familiar. She entered the boardroom, where Marcus Elwood stood waiting along with the new member, some fresh, others returning under new pledges of transparency. Linda Theroux was there too. Maya approached the head of the table and placed a thin, bound document in front of them. "This," she said, "is our new integrity charter. Anyone who wants to sit at this table will sign it, not because it's legally binding, but because it's morally binding." Linda picked it up and read the first line aloud. "We will not hide what must be seen." One by one, they signed. And when it was Maya's turn, she signed last clearly, calmly, with the kind of signature forged not in pride, but in pain. As the meeting adjourned, Elwood approached her. "You didn't have to come back. Why did you?" She looked him in the eye. "Because fire doesn't just destroy," she said. "It clears the ground." And now, the soil was ready. Spring settled over Atlanta like a gentle tide, washing the city in golden sunlight and blooming dogwoods. The new offices of Prisma Equity Technologies stood near the heart of the tech district, not far from where Maya had once walked out in silence, her career in pieces. Now she returned each morning not through the back door, but through the front, their name etched in the marble of the lobby wall beside the company's mission statement. Transparency is not a luxury, it is a right. It had been 3 months since Maya resumed her role as chair of the board, and while the media heat had cooled, the transformation within the company had only accelerated. Ethics reviews were now a quarterly requirement. Every executive decision was logged publicly within 48 hours. And most importantly, every department had been rewired not just for speed or innovation, but for accountability. On a quiet Wednesday afternoon, Maya walked through the third Florence, the domain of private equity and blind contracts, now restructured as the Integrity Suite. Along the hallway walls, framed posters displayed anonymized stories from whistleblowers, past employees, even clients, each a reminder of how close the system had come to collapsing, each a promise not to forget. She entered the shared conference room where Malik, Ria, and Alyssa were already seated. A new case file lay open on the screen. A small public health clinic in Mississippi had contracted them to audit their data system after discovering inconsistencies in patient scheduling and billing. Maya pulled up a chair. "This one's tricky," Malik said. "Looks like a vendor funneled patient information into a private diagnostics firm for profit. No direct violation on paper, but the ethics are off the rails," Maya finished. "Let's prepare a memo, then flag it for the board." Ria added, "They've got 2 IT staff and a 6-year-old network. They weren't just targeted, they were chosen because they looked weak." Maya's jaw tightened. "Then we make them strong." That was the rhythm now. Not grand speeches or breaking news stories. Quiet work, layered impact, no drama, just truth. Later that week, Maya received an invitation to deliver a commencement speech at Georgia Tech, her alma mater. At first, she declined. But Malik nudged her. "You've been fighting so long, you forgot what it's like to inspire before the war starts." So she said yes. On the day of the ceremony, the sun was high, and the stadium overflowed with students in gowns and family members cheering from the bleachers. Maya stood at the podium, her voice steady over the speaker system. "I failed," she began, "and not once, not quietly. I failed in public. I was framed, discarded, erased, but that's not the part that matters." She paused, letting the silence hold them. "What matters is what I did next." Cameras flashed, but she didn't flinch. "I built something no one could take away. Not a company, not a building, but a standard. And every time you choose honesty over ease, you build that standard too." The crowd erupted, not with cheers alone, but with something heavier: understanding. Back at her office the next morning, Maya opened her email and found a short message from a name she hadn't seen in years. Gordon Lyle. "I saw the speech. I didn't expect you to survive me, but you did. I won't ask for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that watching you win has made silence the loneliest place I've ever lived." She stared at the screen for a long moment, then deleted the message without replying. There were no medals to be handed out, no grand finale, just another day. And in that day, she met with city officials about affordable broadband audits. She reviewed a whistleblower claim from a hospital chain in Texas. She held a quiet moment of silence with a former employee who had lost a parent to data-driven medical misdiagnosis. That evening, as the office lights dimmed and the others trickled out, Maya walked alone through the new Prisma offices one last time before the weekend. The air was still, peaceful. In the center atrium, a plaque had been installed just hours earlier. She hadn't known. It read, To those who spoke when silence was easier. This is your legacy. Maya stood there for a long time, her reflection caught in the polished brass. Behind her, footsteps approached. Alyssa. Miss Williams? She said softly. Can I ask you something? Maya turned. Of course. Do you ever stop being afraid? Alyssa asked. Of saying the wrong thing. Of being alone when you say it. Maya placed a hand on her shoulder. No, she said, but the fear gets quieter, and the truth gets louder. And with that, they left the building together 2 generations, walking side by side into a future not yet written, but finally, fully theirs to shape.